Kevin there on YouTube land, Dan here for Geekcast Radio doing another Marvel review, and I don't know if this title falls in line with the Fresh Start titles or not, because technically it's not the rehash of a new series, but an old series, but it kind of is. It's kind of a continuation of a book that was existing before, but it was a different title. I don't know, but ultimately, my review of West Coast Avengers #1, this is brought to us by Kelly Thompson, who was writing the Hawkeye series before this, with art by Stefano Caselli. I probably said that incorrectly. And Kelly Thompson's, I think, Hawkeye run was super underappreciated. I thought it was a lot of fun. I was sad to see it end. It felt like Hawkeye was one of those characters, both Kate Bishop and Clint Barton, that I think a lot of people try to reimagine after the Matt Fraction run, try to find their niche and how to make it work. Even Jeff Lemire took it over, and it didn't quite work. It just, I think either people tried to do too much of what he was doing with Matt Fraction and David Aja and that run, or go too far away from it. I think with Kelly Thompson, she found a good balance. Her sense of humor, I think, fits well. Certainly, there's influence here, character-wise, especially with Clint Barton, but it does still feel very much of its own thing. And I think that's really due to the kind of the sensibilities of Kelly Thompson as a writer. And the purpose of this book really is, it is that classic bringing the team together issue that we would often see with the first issue, but in the sense of that is legitimately what Kate Bishop is trying to do. Sometimes it happens by happenstance. This is actually Kate Bishop coming to the realization that the West Coast needs a team. They need a superhero team. She was part of the Young Avengers. She needs an actual team out there. And when you're dealing with land sharks, actual huge sharks with arms that are running around, this is above her pay grade a little bit. She has no powers. Her and Hawkeye can only do so much. Maybe she needs to get a team together, and that's really what she does. And this is very much a light, more comedic take than the current Avengers run, and I think that makes sense. You want this title to kind of stand on its own in the sense of, you don't want it to seem like the JV team to the Avengers, like just basically the same story, just different type of characters, or you want it to be totally different, and want it to be its own. So feel like it's not just aping what Jason Aaron is doing, and I think that's sometimes where the West Coast Avengers don't last as long, where it just feels like the same book as the main title, just with a different set of characters that weren't good enough to make the general roster. And as a person who did enjoy the actual Kate Bishop run, I feel like this is a good lead-in, or a good kind of continuation of that story. Now, if you didn't like the Kate Bishop, her run, or you didn't like the Hawkeye by Kelly Thompson, you're not going to like this, because it's pretty much along those same lines. If you didn't read that, first of all, you're the reason that it got canceled, and I don't like you. No, just joking. But I think you pick it up and you can read this. I think it is kind of challenging, because there are a lot of bits in this that do take off from that, especially with the relationship between Clint and her. So I could see some people maybe getting lost at the kind of the more relationship aspect of it, like how things are going. A lot of there's a lot of her past that is kind of hinted at or talked about, not in a direct way. She makes a reference to why things are different now with this team, because before she was just hanging out with her friends, being part of the Avengers, and this is actually trying to be a grown-up and get these people together. It's not nearly as easy. And then there's are some different wrinkles with this. One wrinkle I don't know if I'm a huge fan of, and that's the fact that, as you see with the opening, there's actually a documentary type of framework within this, because we see as this team's getting together, one of the team members that joins is Quentin Quire, who comes from Wolverine and the X-Men. And with him, not only does he bring his Omega level powers, but also he brings a camera crew that's been following him around. So they end up, being part of this and interviewing different people. And one of the biggest questions is, can Kate Bishop lead this team? Is she the right choice to lead this team? She doesn't have power. She doesn't have the experience of Clint Barton. Why should she be the leader? And this is kind of, I think, what the first arc is going to be about, is really kind of Kate Bishop proving herself as this person. I think with the Hawkeye run, she proved herself as just a hero and a kind of her own private investigator, and this is kind of taking that one step forward again, which is why I think a lot of this ties back to that run. So I don't know if, as someone coming in cold, if a lot of this would mean as much. We do get some other characters like Gwenpool, and when I talked about this in my comic book haul video, I said that was one of the characters I was a little bit worried about, because I don't know much about her. Everything about the premise of the character didn't appeal to me, so I never read a Gwenpool book. She's not in this much really to give an opinion on if she's going to work or not. She has a decent bit. I do like the back and forth between her and Quentin Quire. That's a lot of fun, because they just don't get along. They're like the Human Torch thing aspect of this team, and I do really like this the interview piece where she's dealing with all these really bad superheroes, from Breadman to Wolverine knockoff that uses knives. It reminded me somewhat of like Mystery Men, that Ben Stiller classic of the early 2000s. There's a lot of humor in this, and I think it works. I think it's very, if that doesn't work for you, if the sense of humor comedy doesn't work for you, I could see this title not working on it, because it does hinge upon a lot of that. Like, if you're not finding it funny, I don't know if the story by itself is strong enough to kind of overcome that. I do like the cast of characters. It is that classic, group of people that aren't really getting along. And the fact that they're kind of forced together in this, and like how they have to use this documentary as kind of using the funding, like even dealing with that piece of it that tends to get glossed over, is like, how do these teams get this money? Oh, it's Tony Stark, he's a billionaire. This doesn't have that luxury. Like, every little thing has to be earned. And I don't want to kind of give away any of the big pieces of this and like some of the secrets, but I do think some classic characters do appear from the classic West Coast Avengers, and even if someone who doesn't know much about America, I did like her presence in this too. So this does, to me, have a lot of makings of being a really good book. It was everything kind of I was hoping for, in the sense of using Kate Bishop, and kind of, she's a really strong character in my opinion. So I'm glad she's kind of getting this opportunity, and Kelly Thompson is kind of continuing her book, even if the solo title didn't sell as well. And I do have to say Marvel's actually doing that a lot with a lot of books that maybe didn't have the selling power they were hoping for, with Unstoppable Wasp and Iceman book, but got a lot of acclaim, giving them a second chance. And this is, again, kind of like a second chance, but with new branding. So again, I would definitely recommend this. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, a little bit light, necessary in that sense, like I mentioned. And if you are a classic Clint Barton fan, if you like the Clint Barton of the old West Coast Avengers, it is a much different character in this. Could have probably used a little bit more Clint Barton. But anytime you give me land sharks, and I'm a little surprised no one made a Street Shark reference. No one made a Street Shark. Maybe that's just because I'm from the generation that remembers Street Sharks and no one else would. And they're like, what is Street Sharks? It was a show in the 90s, and toys. It existed because everything was like, let's take Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and try that. Biker Mice from Mars. No, that didn't work. Okay, Street Sharks, because everyone loves sharks. No one made a reference to that. I was just, But in all seriousness, I did really enjoy this. It's a good time. I would recommend picking it up. So, alrighty, let me know what your thoughts and opinions on War of the West Coast Avengers. Are you planning on picking up? Let me know in the comment section below. But that's it for me. Just remember, comics are for everyone. The key is finding the right one. Until next time, thanks for watching.